Hi everybody, this is the third video. This is what we're going to talk about is symbols. Uh, we just got done talking about culture and about material and non-material culture, looking at and culture shock and ethnocentrism and cultural relativism. So this is talking about what symbols are. You can kind of think of symbols as being the basic building block of culture. That we define a symbol as anything that carries a particular meaning recognized by people who share culture. So we are symbolic creatures. We are, primates with big brains. And we actually use symbols. Whereas most of the other creatures on the planet don't. This is, the old saying, that's what separates us from the animals. This really is what separates us from the animals. With the exception of a few other primates, we're the only creature that uses symbols. In fact, we're certainly the only creature that on the planet that uses symbols in the kind of complex ways in which we do, where we have full-on language. Gestures, everything that we do kind of has more than one meaning in many cases. And so when we talk about symbols, we're talking about the fact that in our brains, we have representations for things out here in the real world so that we can communicate with one another. And so if if you look at this, at my shirt, I would say, this is blue. And it's a light blue, but it's blue. And you look at that and you go, yeah, that's blue. And I make that noise, blue, right? It's just a noise. And the reason why you understand, for example, the kind of the noises I'm making is because you understand what those noises mean. Right? In this language, we have these series of symbols and rules to govern how we use them. And that allows us to be able to communicate with ideas back and forth from my brain to your brain. So symbols are ways for us to do that. And they can also be things like gestures. But the symbolic meaning behind things can change from culture to culture. So what is symbolic, has symbolic meaning in one culture may have completely different meaning in another. So we say good morning to someone. In German, they say, Guten Morgen, right? And that means the same thing, but they use different noises, different symbolic words to represent those ideas in their brain. So this is the basic concept behind symbols. Symbols also change, like I said, from culture to culture, but also within a culture, not everything has the same symbolic meaning to everyone. So, for example, for most Americans, you might have very similar ideas about when if we look at the American flag. It's not just a piece of material to Americans. It has symbolic meaning. It represents things like democracy and freedom, and certainly capitalism, and all of these kind of American things. But also, if you go from different, among the different people, you can find some differences. Like, for example, in the text, we talk about fur coats. To one group of people, a fur coat is going to be a symbol of wealth and power and privilege. To another group of people within the same culture, those fur coats represent people who have murdered animals, and they see it as a very negative thing. Also, Confederate flags. There's been a lot of controversy over Confederate flags recently, in that some people in the South, especially whites in the South, may look at a Confederate flag and see it as a symbol of the kind of the deep, rich heritage of the South. But to another group of people, it is representative of the Confederate flag is a battle flag that was designed to represent a system of things like that represent things like slavery, segregation, lynchings, oppression, and so these are things that another group of people are going to look at that same symbolic flag and see and feel very different things. So that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind when we think about symbols, that not everyone shares exactly the same meaning, even within the same culture. We share a lot of the same symbols, and and that's what allows us to communicate. But sometimes we can actually have some conflict over what is the meaning behind these things. What is the symbolic meaning behind these objects, these physical objects? So that is what symbols are. And now what we're going to talk about in the next video is how we put symbols together and use them to communicate with language. All right, thank you.